Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate actually each and every one of you that takes time out of their day. I know we're all busy, so I guess I want to just say thank you. I've been bumping into a few people who've been watching my videos, and to hear feedback in person about what they like about my videos and that they appreciate that I'm doing it, it really means a lot to me. It isn't easy to sit down and to make a video every week, being pregnant, working, and having an 18-month-old. It's tough. And I also make sure that every time I sit down, I try to deliver something very honest and real, which is also challenging. So to know that there are people out there that watch these videos and recognize that effort, it just means a lot to me. I just want to make sure that whatever I'm putting out into the world is helpful and useful. So thank you guys so much. Diving in, today's topic, this video, I'm just going to tell you right now, even though technically from a click-through perspective, like, are people really going to stay on if I tell them that this video is most likely going to be really long? Maybe not, but this video really isn't meant for the mainstream. It's meant for the few who really need to hear what I have to say today. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. As you might know, I actually started my channel specifically because of wanting to talk about mental health stuff. I was at a point in my mental health journey where I felt like it was time to start to speak up about these things. And last May, I actually made a video, I think it went up the last day of May 31st, where I spoke about my anxiety and depression journey. But when I went back and watched it, it's so surface level. I mean, it's super honest, and I'm really proud of myself for making it, but there's just so much more to the journey that you guys don't know about. So every May, I'm gonna make a video touching on these issues. This one in particular, like I said, is probably gonna be pretty lengthy because I'm diving in a little bit more than I usually do about the journey, but also about how to have good relationships when you struggle with mental illnesses. Because as many of you with mental illnesses know, one of the most challenging things is to have healthy relationships when you're struggling. And this is something that I've had to learn over time. This is something I feel like I've only recently gotten really good at over the last 6 to 12 months. It's been really challenging. It's required a lot of patience of my friends and especially my husband. And I see a lot of loneliness amongst, just in general, like if you actually watch TED Talks on loneliness, it's like a crazy epidemic, and loneliness can cause a lot of problems. So definitely research loneliness, but in general, relationships are just super important, right? And people who struggle with mental illnesses struggle to find good relationships, keep good relationships. So I just want this video to also be helpful for you if you struggle with mental illnesses, and you struggle to keep good relationships. This video is for you. I have a lot of notes, and I probably will be pausing here and there. I'll do my best to cut it all out so that the video can be as concise as possible. But just know that because this is a really challenging topic for me, I want to make sure that I am thorough and that I don't miss anything. So let's dive in. So the first thing I want to say is kind of a disclaimer. My mental illnesses specifically are anxiety and depression. So I can't speak it to like people who have bipolar disorder or people who have other types of mental illnesses. I'm mainly speaking to anxiety and depression. And if this relates to people who have different mental illnesses, then great. But I can only really speak to the experiences that I have. Basically, I only really discovered that I had anxiety, depression around, it was 2016. So it's 2018 now, so it's been 2 years. I started going to college in 2012, and I always had something wrong. I wasn't always an anxious kid though. Actually I take it back. I actually struggled with nightmares for a really long time. But in terms of whether I was born with anxiety and depression or if it was kind of brought on by environmental factors, meaning the household I grew up in, the trauma I dealt with, the abuse I dealt with, who knows? But essentially, the anxiety and depression got worse in high school as things became more uncertain in my household, as things became more uncertain about my future. I remember just being in class and the smallest things would make me cry. And I'm not talking about like ugly tears and wailing in class, but just like tears just pouring on my face. Like I couldn't even control it. It got to the point where I could hear people say, "God, why is she always crying?" like right next to me in class. And I would just go to the bathroom and cry my eyes out. Some days, like I would be sitting at the bus stop waiting for my bus, crying my eyes out, sometimes stimulated by something that happened at home, but also sometimes just happening. And I had no idea why, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. Flash forward to college, it didn't really get much better. I mean, I had the high of like, I was so excited and proud of myself for making it to school with pretty much like none of my family helping. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, like there were certain people in my life that really helped me, but it was like at the last minute and it was a miracle, and I was just really proud and felt very blessed that I was even at college. So I had that kind of to override the underlying anxiety and depression that I constantly felt. You can only mask your problems for so long, right? We all know that. No amount of ice cream or, fun activities are going to take away unrest that's inside of you. So essentially, I quickly realized that like I had major social anxiety. I was scared to make friends, and one of the things that happened when I started college was a lot of people like wanted to be my friend. Like I was this cool person because I was from an island nobody ever heard of, and I spoke great English, which by the way, everyone in Guam pretty much speaks English, and we speak great English. We all speak English. Anyway, so let's flash forward. So basically, I started to date my now husband, and that was terrifying. He was my first boyfriend, and that was when my anxiety and depression really started to manifest. And I don't know about you, but the mental illnesses manifest more when I'm in relationships, whether it's a good friendship or a relationship. So basically that started to pose a lot of issues for me because first of all, I didn't feel like I was worthy to be loved or liked or dated or pursued. Secondly, I was scared and terrified of relationships because I had never really had a good example of a lasting and healthy relationship. I never really thought I would get married. I mean, the fact that I'm 24 married and on my second kid is like crazy to me. And yeah, so basically I was excited to date this guy because I liked him and he liked me, and I genuinely enjoyed his company and he genuinely enjoyed mine. But I just kind of felt like I had all these weird problems and I had a really broken past and a lot of bad things had happened to me. And so because I had all these bad things that had happened to me and I was struggling with them, I felt like I was this dirty, broken garbage, honestly, if we're just gonna be real. And why would I want to spread my garbage and my dirt and my past onto somebody else? I think there's something to be said there because a lot of people, I don't want to say like, I don't want this video to come across as, hey, by the way, you struggle with these things, get in a relationship, it'll solve all your problems. No, because I really do believe that there's a certain amount of work that you need to do for yourself on yourself before you start getting into relationships, because yeah, you don't want to be taking out your issues on everybody. You definitely don't want to be doing that. So there were 2 occasions where I broke up with my boyfriend, now husband, not because I didn't love him or like him or care about him. It was because, again, all those issues I just described, and I didn't want to be taking him down with me, if that makes sense. And I felt like I had a lot of work to do on myself, but I had no idea that I had any concrete problems. I just thought I was broken and I will always be this way. So how do you fix something if you don't know what it is, right? And you don't acknowledge what it is? So we're going to talk about that too. Luckily, my now husband, then boyfriend, was really persistent, and he did give me the space that I asked for, although it was really hard for him. But I think that ultimately sometimes space is what we need in order to figure out what's wrong. After dating him and then but kind of like having space at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. That's for another video, maybe when he's here so we can both talk about it. And then a really good priest friend of mine and another like person I looked up to who was working in a leadership position at my school. All 3 of these people reached out to me when my anxiety was getting really bad, to the point that I guess you could see it on my face and my body. My whole demeanor and body language were showing that I was really carrying a heavy burden. And so all 3 of these people who I cared about their opinions said, we really think you need to go to therapy. And that began my therapy journey. So it's funny because when I think back at my first therapy sessions and just that whole period of time, I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. I couldn't believe I was going to therapy. On top of all of that, you have to understand that everybody, and I didn't build this brand for myself intentionally, but everybody was like, damn, Mia, you just have it all together. How do you get it all done? How do you keep it all together? And it was just getting to the point where I was just so tired of hearing that, like, oh, Mia is a boss and she has it all together. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, like I really appreciate those compliments, but I mean, yeah, I'd be getting A's on my finals and everything, but it didn't have anything to do with like me having it all together. I remember after my first quarter of freshman year, like my first 10 weeks of classes with finals, and one of the people, staff was like so impressed by my GPA, commending me on my GPA, and was like, this is incredible, you've really achieved it, you've really achieved like success. And he was just trying to be nice. And I said, you know what? Yes, I have a good GPA on this piece of paper, but it didn't come without like panic attacks and crying. And I didn't say panic attacks, I didn't know what those were at the time, but basically it was really hard, and I don't think, and lots of lack of sleep, not eating well, things like that. And I told him, and I said, when I can, do decent in school and still take care of myself, then you can tell me I've succeeded. And I told him that. He kind of was just like shocked that I said that, because he's probably used to students being like, yeah, look at me, straight A's. I don't know if it's because, like growing up, I always had straight A's, like in high school, but it like never really mattered. Like I don't even think I had a single moment where a parent was like, good job, you have straight A's. A lot of times actually my smartness was not praised. I was always called Miss Know-It-All and things like that. So getting straight A's was like, it didn't matter to me, and it kind of bothered me that that's all people saw me for, like the girl who always, the curb wrecker, the teacher's pet, all that good stuff, when in reality I had just worked my ass off to go to college, and there were very generous people who were also helping me financially to be there, and I didn't want to let them down, and I didn't want to waste my time, and I didn't want to take my education for granted. So if any of you are watching this who knew me in school, like, here's the truth. Like, that's why I studied so hard. People would be like, how do you sit there and read all 80 pages of that book for the class? Like, it's so long. And I'm like, because I paid my hard-earned money for that. I was a housekeeper in high school, and I was a babysitter all through middle school and high school. I scrubbed toilets to pay for that book. So you're darn right I'm gonna read it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it sucked, because it was always like, Mia has it all together, and Mia is such a great student, and Mia's all about impressing her teachers, when no one really understood, like, first of all, how hard I had worked to get to college, and the fact that college was my way out of like the home situation I was dealing with, the negativity I was dealing with, the bad stuff I was dealing with. It was my way out. So yeah, I really needed to do well, and I was a scholarship student. I needed to keep my scholarship. So those are the reasons. That being said, that is a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old person, and it was really starting to impact me, especially around finals. I would start to get really bad panic attacks, and I was working through college, so it was really challenging. And I was also going to a college that was really high intensity. We completed a 4-year academic degree in 3 years, which means we had no summer vacation. We had very short breaks. And if I did have a break, I would increase my hours at my job so that I can make more money during the break. So there was no moment of rest. And meanwhile, I'm dealing with all of these issues. I hadn't even really processed my abuse yet. I hadn't really recognized any of my problems. I just was starting to have panic attacks. And to give you an example of a few of them, if some of you don't know what those are, it's different for a lot of people, but to give you a more colored example, basically I was studying at my husband, then boyfriend's apartment. We were supposed to go to dinner at a friend's, and I could just feel the clock ticking, like I had more to do, but I was gonna have to stop studying soon and getting my homework done because we needed to go hang out. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to enjoy myself. I have so much to do. So the closer that we got to going to eat, and I don't know if any of you feel this, but you don't want to let anybody down and be that person that's canceling at the last minute. It's like a characteristic of people with anxiety and depression that they just like cancel their plans at the last minute, and then people stop wanting to reach out. That's another really hard part. I went from people wanting to socialize with me, and then when I was struggling a lot and didn't want to go out of my apartment, then people stopped wanting to hang out with me, and it felt like by senior year I had like 2 friends. But basically I started to freak out, couldn't really breathe, just felt numb because the pain in my body of the anxiety was so overwhelming. Like I started to just like detach from reality, I guess because it was too much. I literally went into my boyfriend's closet and just laid on the floor, like in the fetal position. And I remember kind of it being an out-of-body experience. I was thinking, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And thinking, I can't move, I need to stay here. And thank God my boyfriend wasn't like, what the hell is wrong with you? He was like trying to help me. This is a challenging part. When I was going through a lot of this stuff, my boyfriend at the time, husband now, didn't understand either. He doesn't have mental illnesses, not that he knows of, not that I know of. He also says that he's never went through any major trauma in his life. It's really challenging for him to understand or identify any of those behaviors. So he did the best that he could. He tried to comfort me, although he didn't understand what was going on, and I couldn't explain it to him because I had no idea what was going on, right? So thankfully he was just patient, and he just called up our friends and said, hey, Mia's really stressed out. I'm so sorry, but we're gonna have to cancel dinner at the last minute. And one of the great things about Jan, my boyfriend, now husband, I'm gonna reference his name now. His name is Jan, was that he didn't make me feel bad for canceling those plans, although I already felt bad, but it's nice that he didn't make me feel bad. And next thing I know, he's like, oh, our friends are actually going to bring over the food and drop it off. You know, not bring it over and hang out with us here. It was like, they're just going to drop it off because they know that you're studying and that you have a lot going on and they want to make sure that you're eating. And so they brought over food and they brought over ice cream, and Lordy B, like, it is so nice to have friends like that who don't tell you you're a freak or get mad at you for canceling plans and, you know, make you feel bad about it, or like how you've inconvenienced them. And I had no idea what was going on. Remember, like, I didn't share like, oh, I have anxiety, blah, blah, blah. I just can't, I'm having a panic attack right now. Like, they just like didn't question me, and they just brought over food. And, you know, that wasn't the first time that these friends would check in with me around finals and see how I was doing and if I needed anything. And it meant so much. I mean, it meant so much. And so I guess it's just a sidebar. Like, if you know someone that's struggling with panic attacks or anxiety or mental illnesses or any illnesses, honestly, the best thing that you can do for them is just meet them where they're at. Don't pressure them. Don't feel bad about it. Like, don't be angry that they're canceling on you. They're not trying to inconvenience your day. If anything, they're mad that this stupid mental health problem is inconveniencing everybody's day, including their own. So that's one example of a panic attack. Another one was Jan had a special day planned for us when we were dating. We were going to go visit this spot that we used to go to. It was a specific park and a specific spot that we used to go to a lot, had a lot of good memories, and we were going to visit it. And we drove pretty far to go visit it. We drove really far, actually. And when we got there, I think it was around finals again, I was really, really overwhelmed. And keep in mind, again, this was a high intensity program. So I had finals every 12 weeks or so in the year. Sorry, there's a neighbor kid who's screaming. We got there and my heart rate started increasing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I couldn't move. I think I got out of the car and I didn't even close the door. I was like, I can't do this. I need to get back in the car. And I just got back in the car and I think I just curled up in a ball and was like breathing hard. It's like to the point where you can't even really cry it out. Like, I couldn't really cry. I had been so used to not crying, honestly, my whole life that, well, except for in random situations at school for no reason. That's another thing. When you're suppressing all the time, then your emotions come out in like the wrong moments. You know what I mean? And then we ended up having to drive all the way back home, and we didn't even get to enjoy that date that was supposed to be a date. So that was a reoccurring pattern. I think this was before I started therapy. And when I look back at therapy, I wasn't even addressing abuse or anything like that. I hadn't really processed the abuse. I was mostly just dealing with and talking about things that were happening at that moment, just like difficulties I was having with certain people and things like that. But I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? I just wanted to lay that all out, and maybe painting all these pictures is a little bit scary, but I think it's important for those of you who do experience panic attacks to be like, oh my gosh, that happened to me. I'm not the only one. And for those of you who have no idea what panic attacks are, to kind of get an understanding of what they're like and how overwhelming they can be, and that if someone's canceling plans because they're feeling their anxiety shoot through the roof, it's because they don't want to have a panic attack in the middle of your party. Okay, so there's a few things I really want to unpack out of these stories that I just shared with you, these experiences, and kind of recap. So the first being that it was really tough for me to be dating again because I felt broken and irreparable and unlovable. I was extremely frustrated that I had no idea really what was going on. Again, I hadn't really been labeled with anxiety and diagnosed with anxiety. When I just started therapy, it was more just figuring out who I was. It was very introductory. The diagnoses of anxiety and depression came much later. There was just a lot of frustration there of not being able to communicate this issue I had that I was regularly dealing with on a daily basis, that was not only affecting my ability to communicate, but was affecting my ability to go to work. It was affecting my ability to do homework, to interact socially, just to shower sometimes, even to take care of myself. It was a daily struggle, and I had no idea what to do about it. And when you don't treat your mental illnesses, they start to show themselves in physical symptoms as well. So I was regularly having migraines to the point where I would need to be under a blanket in the dark because they were so painful. It didn't matter how much ibuprofen I took. It never went away. The pain didn't go away. There was a point, I think in senior year, I was taking ibuprofen multiple times a day, every single day, in order to just get through the day. I had to cut my work hours in half because I just couldn't handle working more than 10 hours a week, which brought down my finances. You know, there's a lot of ways that having mental illnesses and letting them go untreated affects so many areas of your life, you know, school, work, friends, everything. I started to really feel kind of like an outcast. A lot of people kind of stopped inviting me to things because I had said no for so long. I don't know if you've ever heard that really funny saying. It's like introverted people don't want to not be included. They want the option of being included, or they want to be included with the option of not having to go or something like that. I feel like even though I'm extroverted, it's like kind of the same thing. A lot of times if I didn't really feel like I could handle going somewhere, even though I'm extroverted and I like being around people, if I was having a really bad day with anxiety or depression, I wanted to know that I could say that I didn't want to go without feeling like I was never going to be invited again. And honestly, that's what happened a lot and still happens. I feel like it's like I don't have that security of knowing like, hey, I can't go this time, and like know that like the person's not going to take offense at it and think like, oh, this person just doesn't want to take time to come to my party or something. I know it seems super high school to talk about it that way, but like I think people still do that, and it just stinks. Like for me, it's just like, if you can't go, you can't go. You know what I mean? But anyway, we're derailing there. Man, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm all over the place. I had these great structured notes, and this is just a hard topic, guys. So just please bear with me. I really hope this is helping some of you. So the last thing I want to unpack is that the hardest thing was more than the not being able to communicate what was wrong inside of me and what I was feeling. The hardest thing was that there were actually certain people close to my husband who were recognizing and seeing that I had issues and that I didn't come from a perfect family. And they basically were like, you should stay away from her because she's trouble and she's like not from a good family. Or they heard that I just didn't have the greatest upbringing. Like I felt like I was constantly being analyzed by certain people. Yeah, he was actually straight up told like, you shouldn't be dating her and you shouldn't be with her, which kind of just affirmed my defeating self-belief that I was broken beyond repair and unlovable. And I'm so grateful that he didn't listen to them, and that, I mean, he's had to really kind of draw lines with these people who were close to him. And so I feel really bad about that. But at the same time, it's like, you know, he made a choice and I made a choice, and it was like that he was going to stick by my side and I was going to do the best I can to heal. Yeah, it sucks, guys. You know, I'm not going to say or act like everyone's going to be like, wow, you're so strong for sharing your journey. Wow, you're so courageous. Thanks for opening up about your mental struggles. Because that's not the case. I'm not going to paint this picture, even though we have come a long way and we are able to speak openly these days, I think, more on social media and in general about mental issues. However, there will still be people who act like your mental illness is not anything real, or it's that you should just avoid those people. And those people do exist. Not everyone loves that I'm open on social media. I've actually heard comments of like, well, I don't share my personal crap online like you do. Things like that. You're like, guys, the struggle is real. And for those of you who do, you know, commend me, I really do appreciate it, because it is hard and not everybody is as positive as you guys. And that's another thing, is that if you want to be open but you're seeing negativity like that, I want you to know that if the people around you aren't rooting for you and they're not encouraging you to fight this fight, know that like that's what this channel is for. That is what I created this YouTube channel to be, because if you don't have anyone in your life that's rooting for you and trying to help you through your struggle and through your journey to having peace and happiness, I'm here for you and I'm rooting for you. And that's what this channel is for. It's for people who really just need a friend and need community and need someone to be a voice for them sometimes, maybe if you're too scared to speak up for yourself. With that being said, there are a few things, practical things that I wanted to share with you, and I'm honestly just going to grab my notes because I don't want to derail anymore, and I want to make sure I get these things to you. They're hard-earned lessons that I've learned over the last year of going to therapy. I haven't been going to therapy for a whole year, but I've been going on and off, and then support groups and things like that, and reading books. Let's just dive into those lessons. So the first thing that you should do if you feel like you might be struggling with a mental illness of some sort is to admit that you're unhappy. Admit that you're unhappy, you're broken, you're struggling, and you seek help. I started going to therapy. Again, I was super embarrassed, but know that that can be expected. Don't wait until you're feeling brave enough and not embarrassed. If you're feeling those feelings, know that that's a part of the process, and just go, I'm feeling these feelings, so that must mean even more so that it's time to go to therapy or it's time to seek help. definitely don't wait. And if you have any questions about therapy or any questions about support groups, let me know in the comments. I've done both of those, and I'm happy to share with you any sort of advice that can help you get started on that. The second thing is believe that you're deserving of love. So this is a big one. This is something obviously that I'll be working on for the rest of my life, but I'm finally at a place where I really do believe this. I really do. But this is a huge part of healing and working with your mental struggles. The first thing I want to say is that believing that you're deserving of love takes a lot of practice. And the first thing that helped me is that everyone's like, well, Jesus loves you. Look, he died for you. And while I really feel that now, what helped me realize that I was deserving of love was, even though I felt super unlovable, Jan stuck by my side. I had a few friends that really stuck by my side and luckily one of them really understood mental struggles and abuse. And I had just a few key people in my life that really understood, and they were unlikely heroes. Let's just say that, unlikely heroes who loved me and wanted to be by my side no matter what I was going through. And that's what's so amazing, is that Jesus comes to us through other people. Like, he uses people as instruments to communicate his love and express his love. And it was from experiencing that love that I was able to realize that Jesus really loved me, because he gave me these friends to be by my side during these struggles. On top of that, I want you to know that you can't learn how to love unless you experience it, right? Like, if you've never known what love is, how are you going to know how to love? By experiencing this love from my boyfriend and my friends, I slowly started to learn what it meant to love. And you also can't love others in return if you don't love yourself, which is a whole nother topic. We're going to make a whole nother video on loving yourself and self-love. I've come a really long way with that, and I really want to share kind of what I've been doing to cultivate self-love and how that's been helping me in my marriage and as a mother and as a sister and all that stuff. The third thing is, know that you might have to carry this burden for the rest of your life. So don't embark on this journey of healing and recovery with the attitude that one day you're going to wake up and it's all going to be gone and you're going to be perfect and happy-go-lucky and you're not going to have any problems, because first of all, sometimes these things are genetic. Secondly, sometimes there are burdens in life that we just have to bear for our whole lives. And I'm not saying this to be depressing. Everybody has burdens, guys. Everybody has a cross that they're carrying. And it's no fault of yours. It's just something that you might be carrying. But the great thing is that you can become stronger and make the burden lighter and carry it better. Prayer helps with that. Working on yourself helps with that. And it's through these burdens that we become like really strong people. Like, I don't think I'd have a YouTube channel and would be impacting people and trying to share this message if I didn't have a struggle, right? If I didn't know what it felt like to struggle with nobody by my side. If I didn't know what it felt like to feel like a freak for having these problems and not being able to communicate what the heck was wrong with me. Realize when you start this, like, don't just sit there hoping like, I'm going to wake up one day and it's all going to be gone, because then you might find yourself super discouraged after your 8th therapy session and you don't feel perfect and you don't feel super healed. It's not about changing who you are 100%. It's not about erasing the struggles that you might be dealing with forever. It's about becoming more capable of carrying those burdens. The next thing is learning how to communicate honestly. One of the things that really helped me in my relationship and in my marriage is, when I'm feeling anxious or when I'm feeling depressed, expressing that right away, instead of just like hating that I'm feeling that way and then trying to ignore it and suppress it and then start taking it out on stupid things. Like, I'll get mad that there's something on the table that I didn't want there, or I'll get mad, just getting mad about stupid things, guys. And it's not anything that other person's doing. It's you trying to suppress your anxiety and depression or whatever is wrong, and it's coming out in really ugly ways. So know that, you thinking that, oh, I'm strong enough to just swallow it, I'll just hold it back. You're not fooling anybody. If you're trying to suppress those emotions, those negative emotions, they are coming out and they are hurting people, and they're going to be hurting people as long as you're suppressing them. So do yourself a favor and your spouse a favor, or whoever you're around, your friends, your roommates, whatever. And just, if you're having a bad day, take that time to like have that day and to try to take care of yourself when you're feeling that way. Like, my husband, might come home and want to spend time, but I might be super spent from work and from taking care of my kid and my pregnancy that I just need some time. Because I don't wait to communicate that and I don't suppress it anymore, I go, hey, I'm just feeling super overwhelmed, super anxious, had a really long day. I'm gonna go take a shower. I just need some time to be alone. And he understands that, because that means that I'm not gonna sit around complaining, griping, snapping maybe at him. Or if I do snap at him or anybody, I immediately try to go, and this takes practice, but now I can just go, oh, I'm sorry. I totally am not mad at you for doing that, and I shouldn't have snapped at you. I'm just feeling anxious about X, or I had nightmares all night and just feel super exhausted. So that's why I snapped, and I'm sorry. Because we're at this place in my marriage where he knows I have anxiety, he knows I have depression, and honestly, therapy is super helpful, because I can go home and we talk about my therapy session and we talk about what I learned, and he, through that, learns how he can help me. You know, it's all about helping your significant other help you, or helping your friends help you. So he knows if I'm feeling anxious and sometimes my brain's not working and I'm like, I'm so anxious and I'm overwhelmed, but I have so much to do, so I'm gonna just sit on my computer and I'm gonna just keep working furiously. He'd be like, no, you really should take a break. Have you eaten dinner? You need to eat. Have you taken a shower yet today? You should go do that. This person is helping me because he knows what I need now when I'm feeling anxious, or he knows how my anxiety affects me. It usually means that I didn't take care of myself. It usually means that I think if I just keep beating the dead horse, that it's gonna come alive. And he can identify that now and go, you need to do this, or to help me kind of get out of it. Because as we know, mental health illnesses mean we're not really thinking clearly all the time. And when I say apologize quickly, please know, like, I heard some people in a group I was in say, like, you never need to apologize, you've not done anything wrong. And there's a side to that. So if you've reacted because you experienced abuse or something, and you have this like automatic reaction built into you from childhood, yeah, it's not your fault that you reacted that way. However, you still hurt somebody. So while it does mitigate your, like, you know, you weren't trying to be malicious, and it mitigates kind of that intent, you were never intending to hurt somebody, it doesn't mean you didn't hurt that person. So I still think that it's good for you and for that other person you're in a relationship with to apologize right away and explain why you did what you did, not as an excuse, but to help them understand where you're coming from. And the more you verbalize, hey, I snapped at you because I'm feeling anxious about this, and when I was a kid, this was always a problem and I haven't really dealt with it. The more you verbalize and externalize the things that are going on in your head, the more you're recognizing them, you're putting them outside of in here, you're putting them out into almost like into the physical world, and you're able to deal with them better. I hope that makes sense. It's basically the more you allow things to be suppressed and to live only in your head, the worse things get. So definitely, if something goes wrong, or if something's going on in your head, or if you're feeling nervous, express it right away and try to get it out of your system. Try to talk it out with somebody, and be patient with the person you're talking to, because like I said, my husband, he said he's never been abused, he's never had any like major trauma, and he doesn't have any mental health illnesses. So it's really tough for him to understand these things. And there have been times where like we'll watch a TV show and something happens, or we'll watch a movie and someone's being hurt, and because it's a movie and it's cinematic and they're doing a good job of like visually portraying it, sometimes I'll pause it and be like, do you see that girl like having this panic attack, or do you see that guy having a nervous breakdown? That's what it felt like last week when I was like this. And all of a sudden he'll be like, oh, and he'll have this moment of realization. So know that it's not always going to come from just talking. Like a lot of times we've had breakthroughs was like watching a YouTube video, someone talking about something where things were being intentionally made visual because it's a movie or something, right? So know that it just takes time, and to be patient with your significant other. Don't be mad if they don't understand right away. It's really challenging, especially if they don't know what it feels like, for them to know what it feels like. For lack of a better way of expressing that. The other thing I want to say is to have boundaries and communicate them. So when you're in a relationship and again, you're feeling overwhelmed or something, know what your boundaries are. If there's certain people that are making you feel overwhelmed, you need to draw lines with them, and you need to mitigate or lessen the amount of time you spend interfacing with them, whether it's over social media, or like there are people I just unfriend from Facebook or unfollow from Instagram, or I don't text anymore because they're just super negative, or they trigger me every time I see them in my feed of when they treated me badly or whatever. You need to do what you need to do. So draw those boundaries and make sure you're communicating those boundaries. So also within my own home, I have my spouse, and he knows that like I try to take at least an hour or two to myself every weekend to just be alone. And again, that's really hard for someone like me to do. I always want to be in my home helping, but I help more if I take some time to fill myself back up, because you can't give from an empty cup, and you need to fill yourself back up, especially if you are a mother. You are giving all the time. So he knows I need that. So now it's something that we just like make sure to work it in. So there's two more things. Second to the last one is listening to your body. This is one of the best pieces of advice my therapist gave me because it helps me to make sure I'm not suppressing anything. If I ever feel a little bit off kilter, and this is hard to identify if you've been suppressing your mental health problems for a really long time, but as you practice and get help or therapy or whatever, you'll find that you will start to feel better on some days. And then when you're not feeling good, you'll notice. And when you notice that you're not feeling good, acknowledge that. Ask yourself questions. Am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling anxious? Did I have a nightmare last night? Why did I have a nightmare? Am I feeling down? Why am I feeling down? What is it that my brain is telling me that's making me feel down? One of the things that I'll tell myself, my depressed brain tells myself, is like, you're alone. No one wants to be friends with you. You know, you're too much for people, you're too blunt, whatever. And that could be feeding into my brain, even if I'm not intending it. It's like, I feel like I have my anxious brain and my depressed brain and then my normal brain, if for a lack of a better way of saying it. And because I recognize that and I listen to my body, I go, no, that's not true. I have friends, I have people who love me and who care for me. And it's just my depressed brain trying to, you know, mess with me. So I'll try to do something to combat that. I'll try to make sure I go outside that day, even though my depressed brain is telling me to stay inside and to just despair. Try to get some sun, try to connect with a friend or whatever. Sometimes I'll even ask my husband to call me during lunch just so like we can talk, so I don't feel super lonely if something's, again, if my brain's telling me that there's nobody there. Listening to, you know, your body, if you're feeling down or if you're feeling anxious, acknowledging that and doing something about it. When I'm feeling anxious, for instance, I probably won't have coffee that day because even though I really want coffee, I know that stimulation like from caffeine makes it worse. Or if I need to take 2 showers in a day, I do. Because if I'm feeling anxious, I need to listen to my body. Don't just act like your mental health illnesses are going to just go away. You need to acknowledge if you're having a flare up, the same way how if you had a fever, you would take medicine. If you're having a flare up of anxiety, you need to do something about it. So listen to your body. And the last thing that I want to leave you with in terms of basically, I don't even know what these things that like, what are they called? Like steps to having a healthier you if you are dealing with mental health struggles. I don't know, I just hope they're useful basically. But the last thing is, and this is the hardest step, is disregarding the negative opinions of others, the people who aren't being supportive. So many want to help the broken. But they want to keep them at arm's length. So again, these are the people who are close to my husband who told him that I was bad news and that he should stay away from me. And it's so interesting to me because people want to act like they want to help all these broken people. Yet if that broken person is someone you know or someone close to you or someone in your circles, we want to keep them at a distance. You know, we want to help people when it's convenient, when we feel like we want to go to a homeless shelter and serve a meal once in a while, or when we feel like we want to go and teach a CCD class or teach it, you know, do anything, volunteer. You know, that's great. I'm not dissing people who do those things, but just know that there's a difference between dealing with a broken person every day of your life and then dealing with somebody, you know, that's you don't know, but you can help them when you're able and you're capable. Does that make sense? And you know, that's not to say like my husband is perfect. My husband is not perfect, and he would tell you that if he was sitting right here, and I have to deal with some of his brokenness and some of his issues too. And we just make sure that we don't hold it against each other or judge each other. We both know that we're broken and we're doing our best to strengthen each other and be there for each other. And I think that's the way marriage should be. That's me. So yeah, one of the things I was reflecting on was how Jesus actually spent the most time with the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the super broken people in society that were being, you know, literally outcasted. I mean, Jesus wanted to go hang out with the lepers who literally were like banned from the community. So, you know, does it really make sense to be like, oh, Mia is broken and she's from a bad family, so cast her off and you don't date her, don't love her, why are you with her? I'm so glad that my husband had like the foresight to see like that was wrong, and that, you know, Jesus didn't go, oh, you're a leper, so I'll help you, but like maybe on another day, or I'll help you, but I'm not going to help you every day and be close with you and commit to you. Because I don't think that's what, I mean, obviously I'm not Jesus, so I can't read his mind, but just looking at the way he lived, I think it's so incredible how someone so perfect gave himself so fully to people who were so broken, and he didn't put them at arm's length. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is really incredible, and there's a lot of lessons in there for me and for all of us. So yeah, I basically want to say that like not everyone's going to be super supportive of you in you recognizing that you have a mental illness and that you doing something about it and you opening up about it if you choose to. But know that there are people who are supporting you, and if you can't find them, you can always find me here. I'm rooting for you. I'm praying for all of you. I pray almost every single day for people who struggle with mental health problems, and I pray every single day for my subscribers, because I really do. I know how painful it is. I know how painful it is to live with these problems, especially when they're unmanaged. And I feel like I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm struggling, guys. I really am. But I'm at a point where I can tell at least when I'm struggling, and I'm not just sitting there wondering what the hell is going on with me. So that's a huge step in itself. You know, just being able to go, I know what's happening right now, and I'm going to figure out what I need to do with it, instead of just being like, I have no idea what's going on with my body or my brain. So I just highly encourage you to maybe use this as inspiration in 2018 and try to seek help. Recognize that you might have a problem and go seek help or advice. Message me on Instagram, comment here on this video, reach out to me if you need someone to talk to, if you don't have anyone to talk to, because I don't want you to go to somebody and then they end up reacting negatively. Like I was saying, there are going to be people like that, and then you just quit your journey. Don't quit. Please don't quit. You owe it to yourself to find healing for yourself, to find therapy or whatever it is that's going to help you, because you deserve to be happy. You really do. I just want to say that your past is not your fault. Your abuse is not your fault. Your mental health struggles are not your fault. You know, none of it is through any fault of your own. For whatever reason, this burden is yours, and it's just up to you to figure out how you're going to carry it and how you're going to make the most of this life, even with this burden. And I know that it's possible to have a good life with this burden. I know that it's possible to make progress. No, I'm not 100% on the other side of the fence, and I don't even know what that is or if that's even possible, but I've made so much progress. And like I said, I just processed my abuse the beginning of 2016. It's middle of 2018 now, so it's taken some time, but that's with nobody guiding me, really. So I'm just hoping that this channel can expedite things for you in terms of having someone to go to and go, hey, here's where I'm at. Do you have any recommendations? No, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist. I'm just somebody who's also been through it and is going through it and is struggling to make the most of it and to get better. I guess just know that your brokenness doesn't make you dirty or ugly or unlovable. And know that by handling your brokenness, you are going to become an incredibly strong person. And all those people out there that don't understand or who are judging you for being open or looking for help, honestly, you have to just forgive them for not getting it, and you have to pray for them. And that's one of the things I ask for the grace for almost every day, is just help me to forgive those people and help me to pray for them. If they don't get it, it's fine. It hurts. Draw boundaries. Don't spend time with those people anymore. They're not helping you on your journey. But know that there are going to be people out there like that. So don't be surprised and don't fall apart as best as you can when those things happen. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm a lot stronger now, but when I hear comments or things like that, it does really hurt me, and I'll be practically paralyzed for a day sometimes, just with feeling down that I'm this way. But I have to remember that it's not my fault why I'm this way, and I'm doing the best that I can, and that's all that we can do. So if any of you have actually made it through this video, thank you so much, and I'm sorry I was all over the place. I know I say that in a lot of my videos. It's just been a really hard topic. It's a really hard topic to dive into. But my thing is, I just hope that you take something away from this and that you feel encouraged and that you don't feel alone, because I think loneliness is the worst thing that anybody can experience. Because I think that when we have people who are rooting for us, that honestly is the main motivation why I've kept going, why I've kept fighting. And I want you to know that you're not alone and that I'm here if you need me. Again, message me on Instagram, comment down below if you feel up for it, if you don't mind other people reading your stuff. Maybe people can learn from you and your journey as well in the comments. But yeah, that's it for this week. Hopefully next week will be a lighter video. Just wanted to put something out there for May, since it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I guess if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I do new upload. I'm still shooting for every week, And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much. And again, thank you to those who have intentionally reached out and given me great positive feedback. It really helps me a lot. And thank you for also being my community, because it really does go both ways. I'm here to provide community to you, and you guys have really been providing this positive community to me that has encouraged me to keep going, even though there are so many times, pretty much every time I'm going to therapy, I'm like, why am I going to therapy? And then I get out and I'm like, that's why I went to therapy. This was so helpful. So anyway, I'm praying for you guys. I love you guys. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you next week. Bye.